Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Adam Levine, and I am the Executive Director here at the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, or NYMTC. As the Downstate Region's Metropolitan Planning Organization, NYMTC provides a collaborative planning forum to address transportation-related issues and develop regional plans through our members' shared vision for the transportation network that connects New York City, Long Island, and the Lower Hudson Valley. Thank you all for participating in today's Brown Bag webinar. Please note that this webinar is eligible for one certification maintenance credit from the American Planning Association. You will find more information about this in the chat. Today, we will hear from Catherine Rinaldi, Executive Vice President, and Benjamin Engel, Senior Program Manager for Program Planning at the Gateway Development Commission, the bi-state authority charged with delivering the Hudson Tunnel Project. Catherine oversees Gateway's essential administrative functions while developing and tracking metrics to ensure Gateway's strategic objectives. A past president of the Metro-North Railroad and the first woman to hold that position, Catherine set records for Metro-North's on-time performance and achieved the highest customer satisfaction of any of the MTA agencies. She has also served as interim president of the Long Island Railroad and has held numerous positions within the MTA, including general counsel for the MTA, general counsel for the Long Island Railroad, and chief of staff/counsel to the MTA chairman. Benjamin began his career in the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey as a leadership fellow, a 2-year rotational program that included work in the Office of the Chief Operating Officer, assisting in storm mitigation and resilience, as well as work on the PATH rail system, in the Office of Continuous Improvement, and at the Port Department. In 2016, he joined the Port Authority's Chairman's Office, where he began work on the Gateway program. Since then, he has taken on increasingly responsible roles on the Hudson Tunnel Project, which is a Gateway program project, and he is currently the Senior Program Manager for Program Planning for the Gateway Development Commission. Catherine and Benjamin will provide an update on the Hudson Tunnel Project, which encompasses a new tunnel between the Bergen Palisades and Manhattan, the rehabilitation of the North River Tunnel, and the creation of a concrete casing at Hudson Yards to allow Penn Station access. The project will collectively enhance service reliability, modernize design, and mitigate the impact of future natural disasters, ensuring a seamless 4-rail track network into and out of Manhattan. There will be an opportunity for questions following the presentation, so please type your questions into the WebEx chat box, and we will address them during the question and answer portion towards the end of today's presentation. I also ask that you let us know via the chat who you are and where you are joining from. This helps us learn more about our audience. Before I turn the microphone over to Catherine, I'll just add a brief note to please stay tuned for our next Brown Bag webinar, which we'll be publicizing in the coming weeks. Also, please check out our website, www.nymtec.org, for our brand new webpage dedicated to our Brown Bag webinar series, where you can find information on and links to our previous webinars. Thank you again for joining us today, and I will now turn it over to Catherine. Catherine?
Thank you so much, Adam. While the presentation comes up, it's really, really great to be here to talk about this project to this group. It's a project that's been in the news a lot recently, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as why the project is so important to the region. Ben and I are going to tag team you a little bit. I'm going to do the first few slides that talk about the background of the project and some of the economic benefits of the project, and then I'm going to turn the mic over to Ben, who's going to walk through the various construction packages and give an overview of those packages and some of the progress of construction over the past couple of years. So this slide really just outlines why the Hudson Tunnel Project is important. We like to call it, the most urgent transportation project in the country. There are, as Adam said, there are 2 components to this project. It's the construction of 2 tubes, 9 miles of passenger rail track between New York and New Jersey. There are 3 separate boring packages, one in New Jersey, one in New York, and then one that's to be awarded very soon with respect to creating a tunnel under the river. Once the new tubes are constructed, the project will then pivot to the rehabilitation of the existing North River Tunnel, 116 years old, which creates, reliability issues that are experienced up and down the Northeast Corridor. So there are 2 timeframes that are at the bottom of this slide. The new tunnel is expected to be completed in 2035, and then when we pivot to rehabilitation of the North River Tunnel, that will be done in 2038. So the urgency of this project, right? I mean, I think this is something that's been well known, and NYMTC has been very helpful with respect to telling the story of why this project is so important. It is the centerpiece of the Northeast Corridor, which generates 20% of America's GDP. There's 800,000 passenger trips on the Northeast Corridor, 2,000 trains a day. And the unreliability of the North River Tunnel is something that holds the region back and the transportation network back. It is something, the Northeast Corridor, the tunnel drives property values, drives the economy of the region. Any sort of a setback in those tunnels would have really significant detrimental impacts to the local and national economy. So these are some of the benefits of the project, right? So there's the total jobs that will be created, the induced jobs that will be generated by this project over the lifetime of the project. So 95,000 jobs created during the time frame that I discussed on the earlier slide, which comes to $19.6 billion of total economic output. But if you look at the construction itself, and part of the reason you've seen us in the press recently has been because of a lot of the union support that we've gotten for this project. There are crucial union jobs that are going to be created. $4.5 billion in economic output from the active construction projects, more than 20,000 jobs, and $1.7 billion in labor income that's going to be generated by the 10 separate packages. And Ben will go into some of the details with respect to the different packages. And a lot of this spending, 94% of the spending, is actually occurring within the United States. So there's economic activity that's going to be generated throughout the country, and the advocates that we've been able to gather to support the project recognize how important it is, not just to the transportation network, but to the local and regional economy. So federal funding updates. So this is, I think, what folks here I'm sure are following closely. We are largely, almost exclusively funded by the federal government through a series of loans and grants. On September 30th of last year, we received a letter from the US DOT indicating that they were going to be pausing the reimbursements that we typically receive for our project expenditures pending a review of our DBE program. We have been working back and forth with our funding partners. We have a very collaborative, strong working relationship with our funding partners to be able to answer whatever questions they had about the existing DBE program, both compliance with earlier versions of that program, as well as changes that have been made under the current administration. And that dialogue and that sharing of information continues. Earlier this year, we came to a point where we were no longer able to meet project expenses by looking to our letter of credit, which we had secured as a condition of our federal funding arrangements. That was a point at which we needed to pause the project, and we filed a lawsuit in the Court of Federal Claims against the U.S. government for breach of contract. That litigation is continuing, and as the result of that litigation, as well as parallel litigation brought by the states of New York and New Jersey in the Southern District of New York and the Federal District Court, we have been able to get reimbursements flowing again. We are now caught up. All of the reimbursements that were being withheld have now been paid to GDC. And as the result, we were able to resume the construction that we briefly paused in February. And we are now full steam ahead, moving ahead with projects across the various construction packages that Ben will run you through in a little bit. So upcoming contract awards, and maybe I'll pause here to give a little bit more detail with respect to the various construction packages, because I think that will make this slide make a little bit more sense, as well as the slides that Ben is about to go through. So, it's a $16 billion project. That would be an awfully big award. So we have actually broken the project down into 10 separate construction projects. One of them is actually done, which is the contract that we have called the Tunnel Avenue work. That's the work and the relocation of a road bridge to be able to allow the first tunnel boring machine to begin boring the Palisades Tunnel. That work was substantially complete as of October of last year. So we can, knock one of the 10 off the list. The next major project that's going to proceed, and Ben will give you a little bit more information about that, is the Palisades Tunnel. We've got 2 tunnel boring machines in New Jersey being assembled, and that boring is expected to begin later this year. The Manhattan Tunnel Project, which is essentially doing the work with respect to allowing the tunnel boring machine to pop out from the river up into Manhattan. That contract was awarded early in 2025. That work continues. There are some challenges there that Ben will talk you through. There's a separate contract package that's being advanced by Amtrak that actually was not affected by the funding pause, which we call HYCC3. That's constructing the concrete casing that will allow the tunnel to go into Penn Station. There's 2 more packages that are in design now, 2A and 2B. Those are the packages that will create that final connection into Penn Station, as well as the fit out of the tunnel once it's completed. And then there is the work that will be done to rehabilitate the North River Tunnel once the actual construction project is done. So these 2 contracts that are in the pipeline now that are soon to be awarded is package P1C. That's the Hudson River segment of the tunnel. That's actually the segment of the tunnel that will go under the Hudson River, which is a major contract package that we're happy to be awarding soon. And then what we call package 3 is the New Jersey surface alignment that will also be awarded later this year. And that creates the actual rail connection from the Northeast corridor to the new tunnel's entrance in New Jersey. So that package again will be awarded later this year. So I think this is the point at which I turn the mic over to Ben, and Ben is going to run through the various packages as I've described them, as well as talk about recent progress and where we stand on those various packages. So Ben.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We love talking about the Hudson Tunnel Project, and we're really excited to share these updates with the community. So this slide talks about the progress in the past 4 months. We are advancing construction rapidly to ensure that we are able to maintain smooth and reliable commuter access across the Hudson River for Amtrak and New Jersey Transit riders. So since the start of 2026, components of both tunnel boring machines were delivered to the Palisades Portal construction site in North Bergen, New Jersey. The machines were delivered from via ships from Germany, and each machine consists of about 96 individual pieces. So those pieces are currently on site. You can check out our EarthCam on gatewayprogram.org. You can see all the pieces being put together for each machine. So that's really exciting to have that here on site in New Jersey, as they'll make their way across the New Jersey Palisades starting later this year. The second bullet here is we completed the Hudson County access shaft, which I'll show you in a minute, the slurry wall, which forms the wall for the ultimate shaft that the Palisades tunnel boring machines will be removed from, as well as the 2 other tunnel boring machines for the Hudson River Tunnel, Kathy just mentioned, will begin their excavation from that point eastward. The floor of the Hudson Yards concrete casing tunnel box is mostly finished. Historic concrete pours that Amtrak and their contractor facilitated over the past year or so, and installation of the walls. We'll show you some pictures in a little bit. We have a cofferdam in the Hudson River that we've continued to move eastward to allow soil ground stabilization work to proceed. We'll show you some pictures of that coming up. And then finally, on the Manhattan side, getting ready for our in-water work near the historic Manhattan bulkhead and across Route 9A. We'll show you some pictures of that coming up. So I'm going to take you through the project. Kathy mentioned we have 10 different contract packages, 5 in progress. one of those five substantially complete. You can see it on the picture on the right. That's Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. It's busiest non-tolled roadway in state of New Jersey. And the first project, our package 4, was the construction of a new roadway bridge. This was Route 1 and 9 was at grade on an embankment. And this was a key early work project that was completed on time, on budget, and allows for access for the tunnel boring machines to start doing their work. You can see in the upper left, that's the tunnel portal. So that's where the Palisades Tunnel will begin. Currently constructing secant pile walls to hold up the ground around it, and the tunnel boring machine, that ramp that you see there where the construction machinery and the van are located, that ramp will continue to progress its way down. Our website has a nice feature where you can see the time lapse of building the ramp. Machines.
And it looks like we're having some connectivity issues with Ben. Adam, do you want me to take over some of these slides?
That would be great. I'm not sure if Ben will be able to.
Sure. All right, so I'm winging it a little bit here because Ben has better information with respect to the status of construction, but I'll do my best here. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, I think that shows some of well, I think Ben's already gone through that. And you can also see in the lower left-hand corner, the tunnel boring machine components. As Ben indicated, they're both on site. They arrived earlier this year, and we're in the process of assembling the tunnel boring machines to be able to launch launch both of them sometime later in 2026. So maybe go to the next slide.
And Ben may be back. I don't know if
Are you
he's
back,
able
Ben?
to talk.
Yeah, it looks like he might be frozen.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I described a little while ago the extent to which we've got 3 separate tunneling projects. So describing the project west to east.
Are you
back then? Now we can hear you, okay?
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know where I cut out, but
so I think we've moved from Tunnelly Avenue over to the Hudson County Access Shaft. I was just about to start describing, sort of where things go in and pop out. So, maybe we can sort of take that, if you want to take over that part of the conversation.
Sure. So Hudson County Access Shaft is a key interface for 2 contract packages. The Palisades Tunnel Project is building the access shaft. The slurry wall, the wall that forms the shaft is complete. They'll start excavating that, and that's where the tunnel boring machines for the Palisades Tunnel will be removed from, and the location for the tunnel boring machines for the Package 1C Hudson River Tunnel Project will be assembled and make its way east. Ultimately, the site will be the location of a permanent FAM plant facility that will provide emergency egress and other life safety provisions. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me. I see the slide moved. Okay, so we make our way to the Hudson River, and you can see our cofferdam. The new tunnel has to meet existing Penn Station. And for those, I'm sure many of you, not all, have been to Penn Station, to get to the track level is not very deep. So we have a maximum 2% grade. It's a very slow grade, very heavy trains. And that means that we're very shallow in a portion of the river. We call that our low cover area. It's a 1,200-foot area by 100 feet wide of low cover area where we are conducting deep soil mixing, injecting a concrete into the soil to form a hardened rectangular block. This is intended to be completed before the Hudson River Tunnel TBMs make their way to this area, and gives a reliable path for those for those tunnel boring machines. And we like to call it chocolate pudding, the Hudson River chocolate pudding. It's very soft, it's very dark, but I wouldn't suggest eating it. And so we're going to harden that chocolate pudding almost into a brownie, and stabilize the riverbed before the tunnel boring machine gets there. And to do that, we are allowed by permit to have 600 feet of cofferdam in the river at a given time to ensure that we don't impede the navigational channel. Why do we have to install a cofferdam to do this work? So it's twofold. One, to make sure that we are whatever material we're putting into the ground, if it leaches, it stays within a contained area and doesn't go to the other parts of the Hudson River. And the second part is to ensure that we're protecting the ecosystem of the Hudson River, specifically the Atlantic sturgeon, who are federally and state protected species. And so we're only allowed to move this cofferdam during certain times of the year. So this is currently we're in a time of the year where we cannot do work in the open water. We can't move cofferdam, but we can continue to do work within the cofferdam. So it provides a benefit of doing all the work all year round. And then we can move the cofferdam between July 1st and January 20th. And we are doing that. We're leapfrogging the material. So we're reusing these king piles. You can see those are the round circular piles, and then the sheet piles between the sheet piles between them that form the cofferdam, and we're leapfrogging those eastward for the 1,200 feet. So we're more than halfway done. We're about 80% of the cofferdam has been installed. About 65% of the ground improvement has been conducted, and we're on track for this work to be done before the package 1C tunnel boring machines, Hudson River tunnel boring machines, leave the Hudson County shaft. We make our way to Manhattan, and if you're ever on the west side of Manhattan, either on the High Line at 30th Street as it bends around the West Side Yard, Long Island Railroad West Side Yards, or if you're in Hudson River Park, you can see our construction. Manhattan Tunnel Project is a really important project. It's about 700 feet long, but don't let the distance fool you. It's one of our most complicated projects, and the goal here is to, one, build the 12th Avenue shaft, which you can see in the bottom middle picture. We're currently installing the slurry wall, so the concrete wall for the shaft, and then it'll be excavated. Once it's excavated, a modified type of tunnel boring machine called tunnel shield will be placed in the shaft and start excavating towards the river. This portion of Manhattan was originally the Hudson River. It's all landfill, historic fill. Really not great conditions for tunnel mining. So what we have to do is prepare the ground, just like in the middle of the Hudson River, preparing the ground between the shaft and the river for hardening. We're doing that in two ways. One is through jet grouting under Route 9A to stabilize the soil, and then within Hudson River Park and a portion of the river up to where that you can see that barge on the left or on the bottom right. We're doing ground freezing. We freeze the ground for about 100 days before we tunnel mine, get the ground hard, and then we can start to excavate. We're planning to remove obstructions. The elevated West Side Highway used to be located here instead of what we know as 12th Avenue Route 9A today. The steel piles from that elevated highway are still underground. The tunnel boring machine cannot go through that. So we're going to remove those essentially with this digger shield method, and remove all these other obstructions, as well as obstructions through the historic Manhattan bulkhead. We'll build an oversized tunnel and backfill it with a low strength concrete for the tunnel boring machine, for the Hudson River tunnel boring machine to make its way through. It'll have a clear path, no obstructions, and a clear path for it to get to the 12th Avenue shaft. And that's where the tunnel boring machines will be removed from. So right now we have a temporary marine platform. You can see that over the river, and that's complete at this point, so that we will do ground freezing from that platform. And just to orient you, this is between 30th, West 30th and West 29th Street at 12th Avenue. Okay. It's always good when the slide moves. It means you could, I'm still connected. Okay, so Hudson Yards concrete casing, section 3. This work is being performed by Amtrak on behalf of the project. This will be the connection point between the tunneling activities from Manhattan Tunnel and 10th Avenue. So Amtrak has installed through cut and cover tunneling construction rebar and concrete to form this tunnel box. 2 sections have already been built. The first section is under the eastern portion of Hudson Yards. So if you ever visit Hudson Yards and the mall and office space, there's actually a completed tunnel under those buildings. The second portion under 11th Avenue, which you can see in the upper right corner. We recently broke through the section 2, so you can see into the tunnel, and that's essentially what it will look like. You can see in the top left, starting to build the middle wall, and that'll be the path for the 2 tracks. Our package 2B systems and fit out contract later on will turn this tunnel into an operating railroad tunnel with track systems, communication, everything you need to run trains. So the bottom photos from above, you can see on the left is the High Line, and on the right is 11th Avenue. So encourage you to, when you're on the west side, to stop by the High Line. Have a really great view of both of these project sites. Because I'm a planner and we're in front of a planning group, thought it'd be a interesting thing to talk a little bit about our environmental work to date. The project received a final environmental impact statement and record of decision in May 2021, so about 5 years ago. And as the project has advanced through design development and general project development, we're always looking for ways to mitigate our risks, to improve the way the construction will advance, and we're also learning from industry. So we do NEPA reevaluations when there are changes to the project and changes in means and methods and scope. And our purpose through these reevaluations, working with the Federal Transit Administration and Federal Railroad Administration, is to determine whether an environmental decision, in our case, record of decision, remains valid for agency decision making. So we've seen we have a number of them. You can see we're up to number 14, but just some examples. You can see them on HudsonTunnelProject.com. The contractor for Palisades Tunnel suggested that it'd be more efficient to be able to work on weekends instead of stopping work and then picking it back up and stopping an operation in the middle, especially for assembling the tunnel boring machine. So we did analysis to make sure that we weren't creating any new impacts by having tunnel boring machine assembly 24 hours. Another example is our work in the river. The future tunnel will intersect with former Pier 68, Manhattan. You can't see Pier 68. Pier 68 was removed in the 60s, but when it was removed, it was cut. Their piles were cut at the mud line. So there are hundreds and hundreds of piles from this former pier within the riverbed. It's a forest of piles, essentially. And I say forest because we pulled a couple. We did a test program to pull some piles in the open water. And they were essentially trees with the branches cut off. And they were preserved. And you can actually see we have a piece of one of those piles at our Manhattan Community Center, which is on 9th Avenue. Encourage everyone to visit our website. It has the hours and location, and it's a really great location to check out. We also are opening a community center in New Jersey, in Weehawken, shortly. So we are undergoing an environmental reevaluation to remove piles through potentially an extended cofferdam, and doing public outreach with local stakeholders, such as Hudson River Park Trust, Community Board 4, Community Sailing School, and we work with these partners, the stakeholders all the time, and bring them along. You know, we're working in very dense, in one of the densest urban areas in the world, on both sides of the river, and we're navigating all sorts of underground infrastructure obstructions, but we're also in people's in existing communities, and we're part of those communities, so we want to be good partners. So please stay engaged with us. Stay up to date on all the project news. Our website, gatewayprogram.org, has a really great set of project websites. You can learn about each of the contract packages that Kathy and I talked about today. A lot of pictures. Molly Beckhart, who's on the line from our team, constantly updating the website with all the latest pictures. You can see our EarthCam webcams there as well. Follow us on the social media handles on the screen here. And like I mentioned, our community engagement centers are really, really cool places. The New York one is located at 249 9th Avenue. It's open Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You can find that on the Community Engagement tab on our website. And the New Jersey Community Engagement Center, which is opening very soon. That's on 18th Street in Weehawken. And we'll have the model of our tunnel boring machine that you see in the picture there. Before it was disassembled, put on the ship, and then brought here. So you can take a look at that model, which is really cool, and you can take a picture and a mock-up of the tunnel as well. So so thank you, and apologies for my internet.
That's really great. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Kathy. This was a terrific presentation. I think I'm going to remind folks you can start typing your questions into the chat now. I've got a couple I'm going to just kick us off with, Stephanie, unless we've got some already.
We just have one person who just said it's so interesting making use of the former Pier 68 piles. It wouldn't be feasible since they are trees, but just some, and you're getting some applause, virtual applause in the WebEx app.
Very cool. So I'm going to start off with this is maybe just a logistical question. I'm kind of curious. You mentioned that you can move the cofferdam starting July 1st, but there's a lot of activity going on, you know, a couple days later in the Hudson River potentially, as well as, you know, whatever's going on over at MetLife Stadium. I don't know. I don't expect the soccer matches to necessarily impact you guys, but there are traffic issues, et cetera. I'm wondering if any of that is impacting any of the construction.
We're working closely with our regional stakeholders, both states, City of New York, Hudson County, on ensuring that we don't conflict with regionally and nationally important events. We also work closely with the U.S. Coast Guard on a regular basis, and you know, we expect that we'll be able to work, that there won't really be impacts based on those activities. Certainly the 4th of July is a holiday. We probably won't be working. Our teams won't be working out on the river. But it's we're in close coordination to make sure no one steps on each other's toes. And it's certainly an exciting time in terms of everything that's going on, and we're glad to be a part of it.
Very cool. I did have one more I'll toss out, and then I do see some folks are typing in the chat. I was curious because you did mention, I think this might have been during Kathy's portion of the presentation, but I'm not sure, that there was that pause in the funding, I guess, in February where you had to wind work down and then pick it up again. I'm wondering how that might have impacted the schedule. Were you able to try and catch up on some of that and get it a little bit closer to where you originally were planning, or are you still dealing with some of the impacts of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. I would say that one thing that I would say is that there was some work that continued during the pause, work that was very close to being done, work that really didn't make sense to discontinue for that period of time. So some of the packages did have work continue during that pause. With respect to impacts on the schedule overall, listen, my boss, Tom Prendergast, his big 3 words are, scope, schedule, and budget. That's our focus: scope, schedule, and budget. So we're in the process of assessing and looking to mitigate any impacts on the schedule that might have resulted from the pause. So that's still an ongoing effort.
Yep, I would expect. All right, good to hear. Thank you. I'll hold any other questions that I've got because I do see the chat box popping up and down. Stephanie?
Yes, we do have some great questions. The first one, who manages the construction contract and who owns the finished investments? Is it Port Authority? Is the commission under Port Authority, or is it a whole new entity?
So I can take some of that, and then Ben and I can tag team you on this. So GDC has a unique and very complicated governance structure, right? So we're a special purpose entity created by statute in New York and New Jersey. Once the Hudson Tunnel Project is over, we go out of existence. So unless somebody adds scope to us along the lines, we will go out of existence when this project is done. We have board members from New York, New Jersey, and Amtrak. And then we also have partnership with what we call our SEPs, the supporting or executing partners. So depending upon what package you're talking about, it could be led by the Port Authority, it could be led by Amtrak, or New Jersey Transit. So it really depends upon the package. But when this whole project is over, these will become Amtrak assets. So we will be turning all of this over to Amtrak, and then Amtrak will have the ongoing obligations with respect to maintenance and operation, obviously, going forward once GDC goes out of existence. Ben, did I miss anything?
No. Our governance structure is outlined through our project development agreement, which is a really important tool for us. It's on our website, so the public can see it, and it outlines really everything that Kathy talked about. GDC being a relatively new agency, we are partnering with our sister agencies, Port Authority, Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, legacy agencies, and deploying them where it's where they have the best expertise. So in the case of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, they operate and maintain, and they've built significant civil infrastructure in our region, and tunnels under the Hudson. New Jersey Transit, they're working on the New Jersey surface alignment on our behalf. They just they're wrapping up the Port of North Bridge project, which is just down the railroad from the New Jersey surface alignment. Really, really exciting to have that project built and now one track in operation, so they have good experience building in the Meadowlands. And then Amtrak, like Kathy said, this ultimately becomes an Amtrak asset. It gets tied into the existing Northeast Corridor system. It needs to talk to the rest of the system, and Amtrak operating and maintaining the existing North River Tunnel, the Northeast Corridor, and they're supporting us on the systems and fit out.
Thank you both. This is great information. Another question is, what is the expected life of this new tunnel? How much ridership capacity would be added to the existing rail terminal? Sort of a two-parter.
So I mean, I think the tunnel, I mean, is part of the larger gateway program, right? So you know, the GDC mandate is to construct the Hudson Tunnel, right? You know, the 10 packages that we've discussed. So there's, you know, other series of investments that will improve the overall network, but this is really more in the nature of a redundancy resiliency project. I mean, I think that we've talked, you know, in this setting, other settings with respect to Hurricane Sandy and the impact that it had on a lot of the rail infrastructure, you know, in and around New York City. The North River tunnels are no exception. I mean, they took on water. There was damage associated with Hurricane Sandy, as well as just the wear and tear of 116 years. So by providing this redundant capacity, it will make the overall commutes for commuters, but also just travel along the Northeast corridor much, much more reliable. And I think, you know, is intended and expected to you know, attract more people to the system, and you know, sort of unlocks the potential for future capacity improvements along the line. But this is in and of itself, is not a capacity improvement project. It's much more in the nature of resiliency redundancy project.
Thank you. This one question about, would you review the portion of the presentation where you will be freezing the landfill on the New York side of the project? How far out will you be freezing the ground, and how long does the ground stay frozen?
Sure. So it's just off of the it's between Route 9A and in the graphic there was a barge, and that's really the extent of the ground freezing. It's frozen for about 100 days before we start excavating. Yeah, so you can see on the bottom right is the marine temporary structure, and from that structure, the contractor will install casings for freeze pipes, and the freeze pipes will contain a brine, and there'll be chiller plants on adjacent to that platform, and the brine will circulate through these pipes, freezing the ground, not the river, but the ground. And the same thing, you can't really tell from these pictures, but on the land side portion right now, there are a bunch of casings sticking up out of the ground, getting ready for that freeze operation. And then the freeze will stay on until the initial tunnel liner is installed, and then it'll be turned off. So you know, we don't want to keep it on longer than we need to. So we're not going to start freezing the ground tomorrow, even though we have casings on the land side portion. And then what will happen is the freeze will turn off, and the pipes will be removed in some locations and cut in others, and that Manhattan Tunnel from where the end of that platform structure is to the shaft, 12th Avenue shaft, with backfilled with a low strength concrete, and then the tunnel boring machines for the Hudson River Tunnel will come in and they'll install a final precast concrete tunnel liner, and so after that there'll be the installation of the tunnel invert, the concrete, internal concrete for the tracks, catenary, third rail, communication signals. So it's one step at a time, and the freeze is one portion of that operation.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Molly, for sharing the slide. Next question is, how will this tunnel change the rider experience, and when will improvements be perceptible to riders?
So right now, the crossing the North River Tunnel, which was opened to trains in 1910 with the original Penn Station. It's one track in each direction. And, if you think about that from, a highway perspective, the New Jersey Turnpike Route I-95, could you imagine having one lane in each direction? And the commuter experience today, whenever there's a signal issue or a disabled train, we hear about it all the time, and it really impacts the commuters, people trying to get to work, people trying to get home for dinner, people trying to get to their kid's soccer game, whatever it may be. And once we complete the new tunnel in 2035, there'll be 2 new tubes, and we'll start the rehab of the existing North River Tunnel, which has served this region more than it was ever intended to. The Pennsylvania Railroad, which built the North River Tunnel, never expected the commuter traffic that we have today. It was really built for long distance trains, and they anticipated building more tubes under the Hudson, and they never did, and ultimately, they went bankrupt. So we're fulfilling that need by building the 2 new tracks through the new Hudson River Tunnel, and then rehabbing one tube at a time, the North River Tunnel. So once the new tunnel is complete in 2035, we'll start with one of the tubes of the North River Tunnel and completely modernize it. The heavy use, the salt chlorides from the salt water from Hurricane Sandy, that still linger in the tunnel and create some of those signal problems, that will be renovated soup to nuts. You see it on the East River Tunnel right now. That's being rehabilitated one line at a time. And then at the end, there'll be 4 modern tubes for Amtrak New Jersey Transit trains under the Hudson. And the commuter experience will be better, one, because it's modernized, but 2, you have this redundancy in the system where if there is an issue in one of the tubes, you have the operational flexibility in the other 3. So it's definitely something that the commuters may not see, but they'll feel. They'll feel the new infrastructure just by a better, more reliable commute.
So I'm going to weigh in on that a little bit as well, Ben, from the perspective of a New Jersey resident and commuter. You can't overstate how important it's going to be to put these new tunnels in and have that resiliency and redundancy. I mean, whenever there's an issue with those tunnels, it affects the bus. I actually take the bus. It affects the bus terminal and everybody that's trying to get home or get in on the bus. It affects the path. It affects the Lincoln and Holland tunnels. When that existing North Tunnel sneezes, the entire New Jersey commuting experience catches cold. So it is just really important that this work get done for those hundreds of thousands of people, even if there are no necessarily, and maybe there will be capacity improvements. We're hoping, fingers crossed, but even if there aren't, that resiliency and redundancy is going to be huge.
That's exactly why we're advancing construction with our hair on fire. I think we're advancing these construction packages and implementing different mitigation strategies to work through issues that come up. That's life, and we're working every day to get these tunnels done as soon as possible, because every day counts.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you all. And Adam, it was just from NJTPA. It also affects the ferries, Adam. Hello, all from NJTPA.
Thank you,
I
Dave,
did.
Executive Director at NJTPA.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. Forgot the ferries.
More questions coming through. Is there anything specific about the tunnel project to support through running trains?
So I can start, Kathy, if you want to. So GDC's responsibility, and it's mandated by our enabling legislation, and we have to stay true to that, is we're the project sponsor for the Hudson Tunnel Project. and um, and our scope is defined through our FEIS ROD, defined by legislation, defined by our grant agreement. So anything with Penn Station is not part of our responsibilities. Now, we're not precluding any opportunities for capacity improvements, reconstruction, expansion, whatever it may be. We are not precluding any other activity that may come after us. But we're focused on creating a reliable path for these trains across the river, and our 10 contract packages.
Thank you. Catherine, did you need to add anything to that?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
One other question. Will there be any other utility lines installed in the tunnel, i.e. water, electric, communications, gas, that kind of thing?
Our systems design is still in progress, and our first priority is ensuring that Amtrak New Jersey Transit trains can run safely and reliably. So we're evaluating with Amtrak any opportunity for third-party systems in the tunnel. Our tunnel is 25 feet, about 25 feet internal diameter, 28 feet external diameter, and that's also partially because we're so shallow in the river to connect to existing Penn Station. The larger the tunnel, the deeper you need to go. So it's a tight fit, and we'll provide updates as the design progresses.
Thank you. Question about the boring machines. Can the boring machines be reused in some way?
These tunnel boring machines are custom built for our project. After the Palisades tunnel machines make their way through the hard rock of the Palisades, they'll be removed, and contractor working with the manufacturer of the tunnel boring machines back in Germany will determine what other what the pieces of the tunnel boring machine can be used for on other projects. But we have these custom built for our very specific tunnel. And someone once told me, when you work on a tunnel project, you've worked on one tunnel project, because they all have their own obstacles and challenges and different geotechnical conditions. The Hudson River Tunnel, which sounds like, pretty straightforward. It's one tunnel. It goes under the Hudson. It actually goes through soil conditions, back to rock conditions, back to soil, back to the silty, soft chocolate pudding of the Hudson River, and then make its way through the low strength concrete in Manhattan. So that machine will be different than the Palisades tunnel machine, because it goes through different geotechnical conditions. If it were all rock, it would be a lot easier. And rock has its own challenges. But the fact that our geotechnical profile changes multiple times as we cross the river, that's why it's custom built.
I think they talked
Thank you.
about in the Ocean's 13 movie about using one of the tunnel boring machines from England. Maybe there'd be a use for the upcoming Ocean's 14 movie for the tunnel boring machine.
All right. Question specifically for you, Ben. Any updates on the fish window?
No updates. We did extend the fish window. We were able to work with our partners at the Army Corps of Engineers, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and NOAA Fisheries. We had a very harsh winter, very cold winter, and you may have seen the pictures of the Hudson being frozen, the ice flows from Albany on south. So we were able to extend the fish window by a couple weeks this year into early February as a one-time extension. But we we continue to adhere to our July 1st to January 20th window. We're appreciative of our partners for their understanding and working with us to mitigate some of the impacts from the frozen river, because the folks that work in the river at the cofferdam at the barge, they have to get out there on a boat, and so it was very difficult to get out there, and then the working conditions out there were extremely difficult. We also have, I'll just add, we also have fish monitoring, sturgeon monitoring as part of our permit, and the sturgeon are doing exactly what we thought they would do, which is stay away. We haven't seen a sturgeon in our area when we move cofferdam. We have the monitors out there, so it's a large river, and we've had success in terms of not impacting the sturgeon, and we're proud of that our environmental record.
That's good to hear. Thank you. Next question is, we understand that Amtrak is leading planning efforts with regard to all Gateway Program Phase 2 projects. That said, is there any info that can be shared about whether any Phase 2 projects like the Bergen Loop will be started prior to the completion of the tunnel?
You want me to take that, Kathy? We're focused on the Hudson Tunnel Project. I think that's a good question for Amtrak.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we can do to coordinate with them and lessons learned, we'll do that as our they are our project partner.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question, we did address this earlier, I think, with Adam's question. How does this project factor in the Penn Station transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben kind of answered that question already. I mean, this is a narrow project that's we're constructing the 2 new tubes, we're rehabilitating the existing tubes, so it's really independent of the work that's going to be undertaken elsewhere in the system, elsewhere in Penn Station. It doesn't preclude anything, but it's not really part of our mandate.
Thank you. And last question, just in time. Are lessons gained that could apply to the Dream Freight Tunnel across the Hudson?
Having worked at the Port Authority and the Port Department, and worked on the Cross Harbor Freight Rail program, it's, like I said, building one tunnel is one tunnel. We're fortunate that the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey is our partner, supporting executing partner for the tunneling activity. We're learning from the past. They're really great. The Pennsylvania Railroad kept really great records of their construction of the North River Tunnel, records from the Hudson Manhattan Path tunnels, the Holland Tunnel, the Lincoln Tunnel. So our engineering team reviewed all of those materials. The Pennsylvania Railroad had the same experience of having to tunnel through the historic Manhattan bulkhead. It was much younger at that point, and probably not deemed historic at that point, but they took very detailed notes on where each pile they encountered in the bulkhead was, and that gave our engineers a sense of what we would have to do to prepare the Hudson River bulkhead for tunneling operations this time around. So certainly, that we can learn lessons for cross harbor freight, for any mega project, on how to focus on scope, schedule, and budget. Like Kathy said, our CEO Tom Prendergast, those 3 words are our key focus, and a lot of lessons learned, and definitely for those folks on thinking about Cross Harbor Rail, the New York New Jersey Rail float barge, it's a really interesting operation that moves rail cars on rail barges across the bay, and I'm sure that's on the Port Authority's website.
Fantastic. And just in time, it is 12:59. We're getting some thank yous and you're getting some great kudos. I did put link to the AICP CM credits page for if you here for also would like to get your AICP credit. Oh, just a quick comment. Read the CSX comments on the DEIS and FEIS regarding the Cross Harbor Tunnel, $1 billion second route for exporting waste off Long Island. Just for y'all to know. That's it. All right. Thank you guys so very much. Adam, did you have any?
Thank you,
last
Kathy.
comments?
Thank you, Ben. It was a great presentation, really good questions as well. I appreciate everybody attending, and we'll see everybody next month. So thanks. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Thanks so much for
Thank
having
you all
us.
so much.
Take care.